Okay. All right, folks. So we are starting our Bay Village Historic District Commission public hearing for September. If Steve, if you may start with
I will.
reading the script.
I will. I am calling this Bay Village Historic District Commission public hearing to order at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, September 9, 2025. Commissioners present are uh, Laura Shea, Craig Douglas, Stephen Dunwell,
And Ann Gilgis has just joined.
Ann Kilgus. In accordance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, including the March 29, 2023 legislation extending the suspension of these provisions until June 30th, 2027, we are conducting this meeting online. To ensure public access to the deliberations of the Bay Village Historic District Commission, the public may access this call through telephone and video conferencing. Members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on applications and discussions. To do so, please raise your hand in the application via the Zoom meeting platform or email staff at bayvillageac@boston.gov. We will repeat these instructions throughout the hearing.
All right, thank you so much. So the first item on our agenda is a ratification of the August 12th, 2025 meeting minutes.
So I was not at that meeting. Actually, I listened into part of it, but not all. So may I ask someone to ask if others have read the minutes and are they satisfactory, and to move that they be approved?
I have read the minutes from the August meeting hearing, and I am satisfied with them, and I make a motion we approve the minutes from August's hearing.
I second that.
Great. All in
Thanks,
favor of approving these minutes?
Okay.
Say
Aye.
aye. Aye, aye, aye. Okay, great.
Okay. Aye. Aye.
Okay. Here. Oh, now we got it. Okay, good. So we're ready to proceed with the meeting. Jackie, are you the leader in
I am.
advancing our agenda? Why don't you take over?
Yeah, so next on the agenda would be design review, and our one and only project that is for the design review hearing is 138 Arlington Street. The proposed work is to demolish existing single-story structure and construct a new 4-story single-family dwelling. Before I turn it over to the applicants, staff wants to comment quickly about the application timeline. Specifically, the applicant's team has been in contact with staff late July and early August. The applicants presented under advisory review at the August hearing. And so with the meetings that we have held with the applicants, in addition to the advisory review hearing, staff would like to sort of comment to recommend this project as an approval with provisos regarding the design of new construction. Specifically, applicants or sort of staff recommends applicants to work with staff regarding the finalized material and design of the bay windows. Staff recommends for the applicant to provide an on-site mock-up of the mechanicals for staff to determine appropriateness of its location in relation to its visibility. And last but not least, staff would also recommend the proviso where the applicant is to provide an on-site mock-up of proposed cladding materials. So as the commission is taking the staff comments into consideration, I'm going to then make the applicant's co-host. So Anthony, Josh, and I'm assuming the person owner is Larry, like last time. I have now made you all three co-hosts. So you, if you would like, may share your screen. Or I also have downloaded your presentation and included it onto the screen that I'm sharing now. So it's up to either of you.
Okay, I think that Tony will.
Hey, Jackie, can you enumerate the provisos that are going to be recommended either now or at the end of the presentation? I need to make a couple notes.
Absolutely. I can repeat those provisos at the end of it if that would be better.
Yeah. Very
Perfect.
good. Thank you.
And I will stop sharing my screen just to allow for the applicant to.
Tony, you want to review the plans for the members of the commission?
Yes, Anthony Pisani, architect. First of all, I'd like to thank the commission, especially the staff. We've had a couple of meetings with them, and we find that their comments, recommendations, suggestions were all very helpful. And we feel that we've incorporated the majority of them, and it has made the project better. The project is located at the corner of Melrose and Arlington Street, has the address of 138 Arlington, and it is a remnant. The site is a remnant that is in the 30s. It was known as Ferdinand Street, and there was buildings, 2 buildings were removed. They were number 64 and number 66, leaving a site. This is the existing condition that is here today. Again, there were 2 buildings removed and someone built a small little 1-story building, wood frame building with stucco exterior. The area of the site is one of the smallest sites in the city. It is 348 square feet, has a dimension of 14 feet along Melrose, 43 feet along Arlington, and it goes from 14 feet wide here to basically 0. It's triangular in shape. The building that exists has an area of 290 square feet, plus or minus. This is the existing condition, number 62, Melrose, which is owned by the Cohen family. And our project consists of this building and this site. Again, existing conditions, the Arlington Street view, the former building that was many churches, and we actually did the renovation of this in the early 2000s. Typical floor plans, we have a lower level, which would be considered a basement, which would be a living room. You would step up into the kitchen level on the next floor, then the floors following that on floors 3, 4, and 5 are bedrooms. The section describes the project, I think, a little bit better. The entry, we've gone through zoning, which granted us the ability to have an entry door that is not directly on Arlington Street. You can see that this is the level of Arlington Street. There's a slightly lower level on Melrose. There's a series of backyards at the lower level. Up at the top floor, this is a diagram of showing the top floor. Originally, we had a deck that has been removed and we've incorporated living space. The area of each floor is roughly 270 square feet. The total area of the project, we have an FAR of 4.05. Total area of the project is 1,492 square feet. This is the original elevation. We have bays, and originally we initially started out with a metal bay that was shall we say, a brighter color. As we've worked with the staff, we've come to appreciate and modify the project. This is the Melrose Street side, and basically we have a continuation of windows and brick along the total ground floor. And then the bays, which are really simple projections in order to allow for greater usable space on the interior. We've continuing the line of the dormer across the both the Melrose Street and Arlington Street side. We have a slight change in the dormer configuration in terms of expression, which becomes a little bit more evident from this picture, this perspective. This element here contains the vertical stair, and that goes up. On this side and this side are small projections. The projections have a projected area or dimension of 3 feet at basically the arises, and then goes from 3 feet back to the building line. So we're not cited for PIC, Public Improvement Commission, because generally the Public Improvement Commission allows as of right an overhang of 3 feet. We're less than that, except for one point. We felt strongly that this feature here, the vertical expression of the stairs going up, is right on line with Isabella Street. That is, when you come up Isabella Street, you would see that. We're echoing curved forms that happen at the church. And we have an expression of the dormers are set out slightly with a configuration at the windows, which is mirrored or brought about by the expression on the curved member. Curved member, that's the top floor. Again, we're in alignment with the gable and with the dormers. A view that shows the rear of the buildings on Melrose, and again, there's a step down of a floor back there. The main entrance to our building is here, as shown on this diagram. And again, we have the window configuration. Here we're on Arlington Street, turning the corner. A greater aerial view. All the mechanicals are set up high. We're in complete agreement with the need for a mock-up on the field, in the field. According to our site study lines, this will not be visible from the street. As we turn the corner, this is, again, Melrose. And here you can see we've picked up and run the combination of the windows and brick in alignment totally around the corner. We carry it to this point. The bay starts at a little projection of 6 inches here and starts to wrap around. Again, the view from, this was the previous scheme. And this is where we are today. The windows have all been modified to soften the elevation, I feel, by introducing very similar windows with muntins. And we've always spec'd out and tend to use Marvins. And this is where we started. And one of the interesting things about Melrose Street, of course, is that basically on Melrose, there are no bays. But as we approached Arlington, where there are, we felt the need for that. And again, the purpose of the bays, they're not put out there for a reason. The major reason is we need the space, okay?
Yeah.
And let me show you the plan here. So what we call bays are really squaring off and making the rooms rectilinear. If we followed the line of the property, you can see it would cut directly through. This allows a bathroom to work, and more importantly, it also allows a bedroom. The central portion is stairs, so it's basically bedroom, gallery, bathroom, stair. And you can see it here. Again, one enters at grade, goes down to the living room area, up to the kitchen, picks up the circular stair that runs up through the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, that's it.
I have a question about the materials.
Yes,
On the lower level, it's brick in the front, and then it goes up to, what is that material?
it's copper.
Oh, it's the on the facade, on the
bays?
yes,
Yes,
that's
Nice.
copper.
the bays are copper.
They're painted copper, or they?
No, what we found is that we've done this on Congress Street.
Yeah,
Congress Street, of course, is much closer to the water.
right.
But we've put a treatment on, so they go to a brown, almost a brown.
Oh, okay.
They don't go to, it doesn't go to green.
Verdigris. Okay, I wondered. Okay,
Yeah,
I just
It's
wondered.
not Vergas, no.
Yeah, okay, okay. I think it looks pretty. I think it's your creativity is really impressed me because it's such a tiny spot.
I have a question about the entrances. Can you explain the entrance there that is at grade on Arlington versus the entrance that I'm seeing on Melrose?
There are actually, in the existing building, there are in fact two entrances. One is here right now, and we are keeping that. We have removed the one that's on the corner of Arlington. It was right at the corner. And we had to do that because of the level change. This is the
So
level.
the blue door that I'm seeing on this image is the building next door to yours, not your
That's right.
building.
That's
Okay.
right. That is not part of our, that is not
Okay.
part of our building. The building line is right here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay, and is there a second egress for the owners of the new building, for the residents of the new building? Is there a emergency egress below grade?
There is one egress. Again, we're a 1,492 square foot building. We're fully sprinklered. It's a single family and qualifies for one egress.
Okay.
So I live on Isabella and I have those lovely verdigris bays.
Yeah.
When I come out my door and turn, I see your property.
Yes.
And last night I was noticing the two windows that are currently existing. If you go back to the existing conditions.
Sure. Want the photograph?
Yes.
Here.
There it is. So in the photograph in the middle, or the photograph now on the left, sort of above the pedestrian sign, what happens
Yeah.
to the light that the residents in the, I think it's 58 Melrose, what happens to those two windows there?
That would actually be 62.
62
No,
Melrose?
they get blocked. They are bathrooms. Okay, and technically, they were put in illegally because that's
The windows were illegal?
yeah.
Huh?
The windows were not there in the original building. When they took the two buildings down, someone put those windows in. The windows are on the property line. The only way that you can do a window on the property line is you have to give a window the same rating as the wall. That is, that window would have to be a 3-hour rated window. Now, today it can be done. In 1938, or whenever they did that, it could not be done. So technically, those are illegal windows. They get blocked.
Thank you. I was wondering what happened to those windows.
But for the record, Lawrence Estacaro, I've studied the history of this area, and truth be told, 90 years ago, there was not a lot of vigilance. I think that's a fair understatement. And that's probably why somebody just did it on the weekend, not Mr. Cohen or anybody in his family, that's for sure.
No, it literally happens quite frequently. If one takes a walk around the city, especially in the North End, you will often find illegal windows put in. It's a matter of enforcement that never took place.
So I'd just like to say that I appreciate the fact that the bay windows now, with the way you're treating them with the copper, will be closer to the tone of the brick. I think that aesthetically that helps a lot because they're a big feature. I completely understand why you need them from a floor plan standpoint, but I just wanted to, acknowledge that. I think that's a good improvement.
And for the copper surface, I think that's great. And lining up all of the windows with the abutters on Melrose, that looks really great.
Also, there are mullions in the windows. Do I see mullions?
Yes.
Okay. In all of them or not under the arch?
Yeah, no, let's go to the perspective of this. They are
But not in the middle, I believe.
right. These
Okay.
all have mountains as well as these, as
Okay.
well as
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
And are the windows clear or are they glazed for privacy or both?
They're clear glass. Yes.
Even in the bathrooms?
Good question. Good question. Well, one of the issues is that we have broken the bathroom windows. We obviously, what we'd prefer to do is do a frosted, not a frosted, but maybe even a reflected. I'm not quite sure yet. But I'm not worried about any overviews for these two bathrooms. This one maybe a little bit, but we'll work on that obviously, and maybe it's a gridded glass.
It's so obvious to me when I exit my home that the building at 136 Arlington, the lights are on, there's no window coverings, the people are just living in there, and the dogs and the cats, and it's sometimes lit up like a beacon when I exit my home at night.
Huh. Do you find that disturbing?
No, we find it amusing. We call it the live out loud building because
right. Well, purposely, this building, I think, will have a reasonable level of excitement in the following sense. That's a circular stair that goes,
Yeah,
and this will always generally be very well lit, very transparent. There's a walkway and that connects the bedroom to the bathroom, but that's further in and beyond the stair. Now, yeah, I don't know what people's personal habits are going to be, but yeah, good luck to them. Yeah, again, I really appreciate the comments that we got from Chelsea and Jackie and the rest of the staff. You know, it brought us
we
a lot.
appreciate you listening to them and modifying your design.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I'm sorry. Yeah.
And I'd like to follow up per the request of the commission to reiterate the staff comments, specifically how staff recommends this project to be approved with provisos regarding the design of the new construction. Starting out with the proviso number one would be for the applicant to work with staff regarding the finalized material and design of the bay windows. Proviso number two would be for the applicant to provide an on-site mock-up of the mechanicals for staff to determine appropriateness of its location in relation to its visibility. And proviso number three would be for the applicant to provide an on-site mock-up of proposed cladding materials.
Well said, Jack. This is Ann Kilgus. Whoops. Sorry. Oops.
We can hear you. Hannah.
Sorry, I had an interruption. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
We can hear
Okay,
you.
I've had an interruption with someone trying to come in. I think it's a fabulous project. I'm sorry I was unavailable last month, but I'm enormously impressed. And you've really brought it in line with the neighborhood. And I'm amazed that you can do something this really spectacular with such a tiny plot. I think it's absolutely amazing. So I'm in favor to vote and forward. And Jackie, your recommendations, yeah, of course, are well spoken.
A question about the proviso for the mechanicals. Are the mechanicals only on the rooftop as shown in your schematic here? Are there mechanicals down in the backyard and the below grade area? Or are all the mechanicals on the roof?
We're showing all the mechanicals on the roof.
Right, can I jump in?
Yeah, we have such a limited yard space.
Yeah.
What we'd like to do is at least have a tree. Also, to get down to the lower level, there happens to be a circular stair that we have to provide clear egress to, so that originally that lower level connected to crosswalk or crossways so people could get out. There theoretically is still one, but because the Cohens own 62, which is this building, we felt that it was important to keep the circular stair that's there. Therefore, that limits the amount of space that we would have even on the ground floor to put mechanicals. Ergo, the mechanicals will all have to go up on the roof.
And I would just like to follow up and confirm that that proviso was under just the communication that we've had with the applicants that the on-site mock-up or the mechanicals would be placed on the roof.
Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Ann was saying. I also was not able to fully attend the previous meeting, although I did listen to part of it. I think this looks like a really great improvement, and I like the details. You guys have really made some magic happen in a very small space, and I am ready to move to approve it with the provisos that have been mentioned. So
I'll second that.
is there other comment on this, by the way?
Yes, I would like to make a comment. And Jackie, it looks like, transition from John sending Zoom links didn't work for me. John has spoiled us to send it just before the meeting, I must admit. Long weekend notwithstanding. So that was not a comment on this property. That was a comment on my joining 5 minutes in the midst of the call. I believe based on the very detailed presentation last month, this is truly, as to echo everybody's sentiments, a great addition and value in a historical way with the modern twist to the neighborhood, and only adds to this stretch of Arlington Street to make it even more beautiful and family friendly. So I commend everyone.
Thank you.
And probably that's a creativity and something the neighborhood can learn for any future developments in that sort of historical do-over of either open spaces or upgrades or any build-ups, assuming there would be any, since this truly, I believe, meets the 21st century with the 19th century spirit of the Bay Village area. Thank you.
All right, so Steve, I think we'll have to do some see if there's any public comment.
Yeah, let's ask for that. Is there a
Yes.
public comment?
Well, let me, Anthony, if you may please unshare your screen, so I could
Okay.
share, and then that will allow me, so Steve, if you see the screen,
You want me to read that out loud?
yes, please.
Okey doke. Members of the public will now have an opportunity to ask questions and provide public comment on the application and the discussions. To do so, please raise your hand via the Zoom meeting platform. If you are calling in and cannot use the platform, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or you can send questions to the staff via email at bayvillageac@boston.gov.
Okay, so I currently do not see any raised hands, and checking the email inbox, we do not have any sort of public comment.
Okay, seeing no comment, is it appropriate now to ask for a vote on this? Is that okay with you, Jackie?
Yeah.
So may I propose, I'm going to propose the motion. I propose that we approve this application as presented with the following provisos. Number one, that the bay window design be reviewed by staff as was proposed. Number two, that there be a mock-up showing the roof mechanical to confirm that the mechanicals are set back. And the third is a mock-up of the cladding material, which we believe is a copper that will age to a brown color. Is there a second for that?
Yes,
I
I
second.
second.
All right then, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I believe that's unanimous. Is there any opposition? Okay then, having a vote and no opposition, the approval is approved.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
We are too.
Do we have another agenda item?
Yeah, so that's just the conclusion of our design review. So the next thing on our agenda would be the administrative review. So we have two applications for that are placed under administrative review, starting with 19 Fayette Street, Unit 5. So this work is to replace 8 non-original windows with 6/6 double-hung black fiberglass windows with a half screen, in which is allowed using the regulatory standards of this historic district. So 19 Fayette Street is highlighted on the right-hand corner. So the proposed application would be on the second unit. So if you could see my little mouse, it would be the windows starting from here, sliding all the way to here, and then this is a door that is not part of the application, and the other window that is to be replaced would be the one on the left-hand side. Moving on to 19 Melrose Street, very similar sort of scope of work, and that's to replace 8 non-original windows with 6/6 double-hung white aluminum clad exterior windows with a half screen. So this one would be 5 that would be replaced in the front facade, and then there would be 3 being replaced in the rear facade that is in the public alleyway.
Could you point with your pointer to the windows at 19 Melrose that are being replaced?
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be all of these windows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm sorry. It would be these. I misspoke. It would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be 5 windows. So it would be the first level, the second level, and then there would be 3 that are going to be replaced at the second level of the rear alley. Sorry, I misspoke about that and got mathematically confused. But yeah, so it would be 5 on the front facade and 3 on the rear facade.
Oh, I see. Okay, just to follow along on that, Jackie, because I also misunderstood. So the 3 windows at the top on the front of the building
Yes.
are staying the same.
Yes,
No
that
change.
is not within the scope of work. That is a separate
Right.
unit that is not part of this application. So just to confirm again, that was my mistake. So it's going to be the first 2 windows that are going to be here that will be replaced. And then on the second level, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, these 3 windows. And then on the rear facade, it's going to be 3 windows at the second level.
Right. So I have a follow-up question on this. Maybe it would be a chance for us to kind of review the window chapter of our guidelines. So that building is unusual in Bay Village because it has a white
Right.
brick exterior, sort of white painted, white washed. I'm not sure quite how they do that, but I think it's the only one. And am I right that the reason why the metal color is white is because the building is white? And that in the other case, the metal is dark because the building is dark? Can you
So
explain that, please?
yeah, absolutely. So basically, what the regulatory standards goes by is sort of the existing conditions, right? So the replacement of non-historic windows shall be with a historic material or a sort of color. So the white 6/6 windows are consistent with the history or the building history of this. Particular property. It has really nothing to do with the sort of brickwork that we see. It's more so with sort of what has been utilized within the property that sort of dictates the color of that window.
So replace in kind?
Yes, exactly.
Well, may I point out that sometimes we have windows where historically it would have been, like a dark wood,
Mhm,
but maybe in the 50s somebody put, frankly, inexpensive storm windows in that might be white or might be bright metal.
mhm.
And then when they come around for an application again, are we going to say, oh, well, we'll just do what you did before? Or are we going to say, no, we think it really should be this other way?
So
That's
that's
kind of what
something.
I'm wondering about this.
Yeah, so that's something that sort of staff definitely looks into. We really do look for historic references and try to use sort of evidence to dictate what the best color and material would be for that window replacement. Sometimes when we see, depending on the district, sometimes when we see that they want to replace it with in kind, we do encourage that, and it's when we can't really find any evidence that the color would be any different. So it's in lack of better terms, it's really on a case by case basis, but certainly one of the first steps that staff does and conducts is to look at any historical reference material to dictate whether that proposed color is appropriate.
And do we care about fiberglass versus aluminum?
So,
Fiberglass, black
Mhm.
fiberglass versus white aluminum?
So the material of the windows really, again, is case by case basis. The regulatory standards does have pretty, I would say pretty useful language regarding the material of the windows. There is nothing that really allows or basically, and just to explain it properly, again, it's really by case basis, right? So when staff receives an application, the first thing we ask is whether that window is original, whether it's a wood window, whether it's a non-original window, and that sort of dictates our next steps, right? So it really depends on the application that we get, if that makes sense. So if we see that this is a non-original window, like these two applications, let's say, for example, 19 Fayette Street. If I'm remembering correctly, these windows were aluminum clad windows and they're just being replaced again. Or I'm sorry, these were black fiberglass windows and they're just being replaced again with the same material, right? And so that's something that we do allow for.
And
And
I'll just add, when we worked on the window guidelines, the new window guidelines, what we heard back from the commissioners was, you wanted more flexibility in terms of composite materials and materials other than wood. So
And energy
yes,
efficiency.
aluminum clad can be used and fiberglass can be used.
Mhm. And it's also important to note that when we do see an application that does have original historic windows, including wood, metal casements, and so forth, it shall be repaired instead of replaced. But the regulatory standards does state that if the commission determines that repair is not possible when more than 50% of the wood or metal elements are deteriorated beyond repair, then that's when we sort of work with the applicant to find what would be appropriate as a replacement material.
We talked about a lot about that, and also we tried to leave room for future materials in all areas because we realize in the future there may be better materials.
Yeah, and to that point, I think that composites often come in now as looks just like wood, but
Yeah.
doesn't rot. So it's important to be open to alternatives. And the reason I bring it up now, and if it's okay with you guys, maybe we just think about this again another time. I think it'd be great to have like a little sample book, so to speak, that says this is what we think is the right thing to do, and this is what we think is the wrong thing to do. Because I think it comes up frequently in these window replacement situations that the people who come to us are not certain what we want.
I'm not hearing that. Where are you hearing that? We haven't gotten that I haven't gotten that feedback from any applicants, and I think that wasn't an issue with either of these applications. These are administrative review items. These were presented to you really just as a courtesy to explain why staff is approving them, but there was no controversy with these.
Yeah. No, Joe, my comment was more anecdotal. People come up to me sometimes and say, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do, and I say, well, it's not my role to tell you what to do. But I personally, I would like to think about it a little bit more. I'm fine with approving these. There's no controversy. We worked so hard on this with the guidelines, and I still find, for me personally, there's some things that I just don't quite fully understand. So it's a learning process for me.
Okay. All right.
So can we approve these? Do we need to vote on these?
Yes.
No, I vote we approve them. And I think the staff did a fabulous job.
Okay, so all in favor of approving this?
Aye.
That's me too.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Opposed? No. So that's unanimous. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And again, apologies for the mix-up on one of the admin review. But as for staff updates, I just again wanted to introduce myself to those who weren't able to make the August hearing. Again, my name is Jacqueline Venegas. You guys can all call me Jackie. I'm the new preservation planner for the Office of Historic Preservation. So I'm looking at the Bay Village Historic District, St. Botolph, and sharing South End with our other preservation planner. So I'm always here if anyone has any questions about the regulatory standards or anything of that sort. I would be happy to clarify any sort of language. That's why I'm here. I'm here to help. And I'm extremely excited to continue to get to know every single one of you.
Thanks, Jackie. Looking
course.
forward to meeting you.
Of course.
Thank you,
And-
Jackie.
Yeah, of course. And
Work.
Joe, did
Great
we-
work.
Thank you. Joe, did we have anything else that we wanted to share or perfect. And then my one final staff update really is most of you have seen the attendance tracker for commissioners. I've embedded that within our invitation on Google Calendar. So thank you for all of those who have filled that out. If you haven't yet, I will be happy to forward them as soon as possible. It's just a way for us to know who's attending the upcoming hearings, to make sure that we have quorum. Just a really useful tool for staff over here to just plan ahead. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to us as well. But then that leads us to the end of the meeting. So if anyone would like to set a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So
And
moved.
Jackie, before we do that, just to clarify, for the attendance,
Mhm.
do you expect everybody to say, yes, I will attend? Or
No.
when somebody knows they have, I don't know, fly out of the country, have family weddings, or basically are unavailable for whatever other reasons? Because if there is a last minute change, I believe that's where you should be notified the moment somebody learns. But I just want to make sure that we are not doing like a school attendance, like, I
No.
plan to be, because if that's probably is not the most effective way, this is only for, we expect to be at every meeting. That is my assumption, unless something happens. So you get updated, as soon as we know we cannot attend.
Yeah, so sometimes, the reason why it was suggested or why we sort of implemented this attendance tracker is not more so of like, oh, you have to come. We understand that there is a commitment.
No, I understand. Let's just get to the chase. Sorry, it's just.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So basically,
my question was very simple. Do
Mhm.
we need to give it to you an update? Yes, I will attend. Or is it prudent just to limit? Well, if somebody has nothing else to do, that's perfectly fine.
I'll chime in here, Catherine. We want to make sure we have a quorum of commissioners, and we need to
Yes.
have a quorum present. So if you know you're going to be out of the country or on vacation, please let us know in advance.
Of course.
That's what we're asking for. We're not, we're not trying to do anything else. We just, if you know you're not going to be able to make it, please let us know in advance. But
guys, that goes without saying. I'm
we
sorry.
understand that, there are going to be last minute reasons why.
Exactly. When there is last minute something change, of course, somebody will notify you. If you have a long-term plan, you will update. I'm not talking about those two scenarios. I am talking whether you need to say, yes, I will attend. That's my very basic question, which I don't think is necessary, because as commissioners, we are expected to be here unless the meeting is canceled or we have conflicting priorities for whatever material reasons. So what I am saying, do you expect us to say, yes, I will attend at every time? Or maybe we can simplify and just say, I am not attending. If somebody wants to say, yes, I have nothing against it. I'm just saying that it adds a certain, not every time you will be able to say, yes, I will attend. I believe people are more mindful when they have a challenge on schedule to attend. So of course you need to be notified as soon as somebody identifies such an obstacle.
So the expectation is, so it's a spreadsheet. with all of the dates. So if you plan on coming to all of them, as we think you all are planning to come to them, say yes to all of them. And then if something changes and you're not going to make it, or if you have something scheduled, then you can change your answer.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how to get back to that spreadsheet and change my answer. Or if
Maybe
I
you
should
could
change,
just-
or if I should change my answer to the invite, the meeting invite.
You can
Just
always
please-
email us. You
Yeah.
can always email.
Yeah.
It's not this, I mean, it's not this district where we've had problems. It's, you know, some of the other districts where we have a bare minimal of members. So, you know, we struggle to have a quorum.
Of course, I understand.
We're not trying to make more work for everyone, so.
I just try to simplify it because I believe this committee is outstanding in terms of people dedication, no matter which time zone, which situation. And I believe, as far as my experience so far, has seen a quorum each single time. We never experienced lack of quorum. Laura, correct me, we joined it around the same time, and then Craig tag along. So again, it's just, I was just trying to make sure, because I located this email with the spreadsheet and all the guidelines, and I'm like, do you need all that, or just we showed up? And if something has happened, of course, you'll be guys notified as soon as we learn, which, you know, everybody knows it's second Tuesday, and we are learning to schedule our life accordingly.
Okay.
So thank you for clarification, and apologies to hijack the adjourn.
So,
No worries. That's why we have
thanks for the
updates.
feedback.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all, commissioners. And now if we can get a motion to
I-
adjourn. the meeting.
I motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
In favor?
Aye.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so
meeting's adjourned.
much.
Thank you all
so
very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.
Thanks,
Bye now.
everyone. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay, thank you.